Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to day 4 of Decktober. Today we're looking at the $45 budget Saryth the Viper's Fang deck tech. Saryth is a 3/4 human warlock that says other tapped creatures you control have death touch and untapped creatures you control have hexproof. You can also tap one and tap Saryth to untap another target creature or land you control. This deck is all about getting down that classic green ramp, getting plenty of pingers that will gain death touch due to Saryth and get them green stompy creatures to smash your opponents into smithereens. Now, let's get right into the budget deck tech. As we always like to do, first we're starting off with the ramp, and here we have a load of land-based enchantments. Fertile Ground says whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of any colour, and Overgrowth says whenever enchanted land is tapped, add 2 forest. There is Wild Growth that adds a forest for each time enchanted land is tapped for mana, and Wolf Willow Haven that also says when enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller taps an additional forest. We've added Ronus's Monument to cheapen all of those green spells by 1 and the chance to boost our creatures and give them trample, and we've got a ton of mana dorks crammed into this deck, the first being Arbor Elf to tap an untapped target forest. There is also Llanowar Elf and Elvish Mystic to both add a forest, and we have Fintorn Elves to again add a forest, and Karametra's Acolyte to tap and add forest equal to your devotion to green, which in a mono green deck should be a disgusting amount of value. There is Hope Tender, you can pay and tap to untap target land with that exerted option, and Jaspara Sentinel to tap an untapped creature you control and add a mana of any colour. On to the last 3 rampy cards, we have Sakura Tribe Elder to sack and fetch us out a basic land, and the adventure part of Beanstalk Giant to search for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield. And finally, we have Sol Ring, because Sol Ring. We're also going to quickly throw in the Staff of Domination here, as this can combo off really disgustingly with all of those enchanted lands, Saryth's ability to untap those big lands that you make, and then with the Staff's ability to untap Saryth, you could soon find yourself with that deadly infinite mana loop. Deadly for your opponents, that is. Before we get onto the card draw, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for all things MTG. It's completely free to do, it helps the channel grow and grow as we head towards 2,000 subscribers. As we just mentioned, now we're looking at the card draw and creature tutors. First we have Beast Whisperer that says whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, and Hunter's Insight that says to choose a creature you control, and when that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. There is Harmonise to draw 3 cards, and Shamanic Revelation to draw a card for each creature you control, and gain 4 life for each creature with power 4 or greater you control. We've packed in an Elemental Bond to draw a card whenever a creature with power 3 or greater ETBs, and Garruk's Uprising to give all of your creatures trample, and whenever a creature with power 4 or greater ETBs on your side of the field, you draw a card. There is Garruk's Pack Leader that says whenever another creature with power 3 or greater ETBs under your control, draw a card, and Soul of the Harvest to draw you a card whenever a non-token creature ETBs under your control. We have Regal Force that when ETBs draws you a card for each green creature you control, and Lifecrafter's Bestiary to scry on your upkeep and draw you a card if you pay a forest when casting a creature spell. For some big green commander staples, we have Return of the Wildspeaker to draw cards equal to the greatest power amongst humans you control, which could be absolutely huge, and Greater Good to have that option to sack a creature and draw cards equal to that creature's power, and then discard 3 cards. We've also got some creature cheaters in Yisan the Wanderer Bard to put verse counters on her and then search your library for a creature with mana value equal to the number of verse counters on Yisan and put that straight onto the field. There is Fierce Empath to search your library for a creature with mana value 6 or greater and pop it straight into your hand. Finally, we have Mwanvuli Beast Tracker to search your library for a creature with Death Touch, Hexproof, Reach or Trample and pop that card straight on top of your library. And some of the cards you'll see shortly you can fetch with Mwanvuli Beast Tracker will combo off quite disgustingly with Saryth. Before we get onto the big green stompy creatures, we're looking at the pingers and untappers. Although not sounding initially as scary as big green stompy creatures, this is a huge part of this Saryth deck, as whenever Saryth is tapped, it gives creatures you control death touch. So a one-hit ping with these pingers means instant death for your opponent's creatures, or worse. First we have Viridian Longbow that says equipped creature can tap and deal 1 damage to any target, and Scattershot Archer that can tap and deal 1 damage to each creature with flying. There is Matsu Tribe Sniper to again deal 1 damage to each creature with flying, and Lesser Manticore that you can pay for and have it deal 1 damage to target creature. We've got Silklash Spider to pay X and 2 forest to deal X damage to each creature with flying, again only needing to pay the 1 generic, as Saryth's Death Touch ability will take care of the rest. And Squallmonger to pay 2 and deal 1 damage to each flying creature and each opponent. We've also snuck in an untapping option with Seeker of Skybreak to untap target creature, and also put in that trusty Oak Street Innkeeper to give all of our tapped creatures hexproof. Also here we're going to throw in Finn the Fangbearer into the mix. If you can get him out, maybe even search him out with the cards mentioned earlier, and then him comboed with all of this pinging damage will very quickly add to that 10 poison counters and get that alternate deadly disgusting win con. But also, having Finn out with some of these upcoming big stompy green boys won't hurt either. Before we finish up with the removal and the lands, we're going to look at all of those big green stompy creatures. First up we have Bellowing Tangleworm that has Intimidate and gives all of your other creatures Intimidate. Again, it's easy to picture any of these big cards syncing super well with Finn to get that filthy poison win. There is also Giant Adaphage, a big insect with trample that creates a copy of itself whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent. For some ETB fighty creatures we have Colga the Titan Ape that also destroys target opponent's artifact or enchantment when you attack them. And Apex Altasaur that fights when it ETBs with that enraged mechanic that keeps it fighting whenever it's dealt damage. We have Froghemoth with Trample and Haste that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you exile that many cards from their graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Froghemoth for each creature card exiled that way, also gaining you 1 life for each non-creature card exiled that way. That frog can get strong quick. And there is Predator Ooze that is indestructible and gets +1/+1 every time it attacks, adding an extra +1/+1 counter to the ooze whenever it deals damage and kills a creature. We have Aggressive Mammoth to give all of our creatures trample, and Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig, that enters with 4 +1/+1 counters on him and gets even more +1/+1 counters whenever another green creature enters the battlefield, under your control. There is Stampeding Herd Elk that whenever it attacks gives all of your attacking creatures trample if their combined power is 8 or more, and Surak the Hunt Caller, again with that formidable to give your creatures haste if your creature's combined power is 8 or greater. We've added Panglacial Worm, a creature with trample that you may play from your library if you're currently searching it, and Grathama All Devouring that gives other creatures the ability to fight Grathama, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage done to Grathama by sources they control. For some big beasts we have Endraze Forerunners, a potentially game-ending card that has Vigilance, Trample and Haste, and gives other creatures you control +2/+2 Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. There is also Rampaging Baloths that will create you a 4/4 beast army whenever you play a land. We have Realm Seekers that enters as XX, where X is the combined number of cards in all players' hands, and Yeva, Nature's Herald, to give all of our creature cards flash. For the final 4 creatures we have Terastodon that ETBs and destroys up to 3 non-creature permanents, with the controllers of those permanents getting a 3/3 elephant for their troubles. And Battle Mammoth that you can foretell, and whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability from an opponent, draw a card. There is Nessian Boar to absorb some blockers and have that card draw option, and Verdant Sun's Avatar to gain you some life whenever it or another creature enters on your side of the battlefield. For the final part of this deck we're looking at the removal and the lands. First up we've got Ram Through to have target creature you control deal damage to target creature you don't control, with any excess damage hitting your opponent in the face, and Halana Kessig Ranger to pay 2 when you have a creature ETB, and then have that creature deal damage equal to its power to another target creature. There is Ulvenwald Tracker to make a target creature you control fight another target creature, and Kenrith's Transformation to draw you a card and elk another creature. Gross. For this deck, with it being mono-coloured and budget, we're running 34 basic forests, and finally a holdout settlement to tap an untapped creature you control and add a mana of any colour, and Survivor's Encampment to do exactly the same. Saryth is a great new commander option from Midnight Hunt that definitely has more than meets the eye when looking at its potential power as a commander. Make sure to check out Decktober Day 5 tomorrow, where we'll be looking at a very popular commander option from Ikoria. Did someone say Prickly Marmoset Tribal? There we have it, that is the $45 budget Saryth deck tech. Thanks for watching, and make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for all things MTG. Check out our link tree in the description below for all of our social media and affiliate links. But for now, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.